Okay, I finally got back to this Kawasaki that I pushed aside. It's been like 4 months now that I pushed this thing aside. I got so frustrated with it, and seriously, I thought about just parting it out or just selling it as is. But the frustrating part is just that everything that I did, everything that I fixed or replaced or cleaned, then it just led to another problem. Each time I would find out what the problem was, I'd get it fixed and thinking now it's going to run, then it would be just something else. It just kept going. From the very beginning, when there was no power to the start button, I got that fixed. Then there was the relay went out, got that replaced, the starter. Finally, I got to where I could do a compression check and found out there was zero compression in the mag side. Did a rebuild, put it back together, and then no gas was getting to the carburetor, and that's when I discovered the fuel pickup was bad. So just a bunch of little things. But anyway, where I left off with this thing was the only way it would run was with me feeding gas down the carburetor. And I went through all the lines. I thought there was an air leak someplace. And anyway, I did everything I knew to do. Nothing worked. So I just got frustrated and shoved it into the corner of the garage and moved on. I had two other skis that I had to work on. So I almost put it on Marketplace just to sell it or part it out. But I decided not to. I didn't have a lot of money into it. I wasn't going to put a lot of money into it, and still not. But I just wasn't going to let it beat me. But anyway, it's been like 4 months. And over that time, I was thinking of everything that I did, and really the only thing left was carburetor. Now, I'd rebuilt the carburetor, and each time I'd pulled the thing off at least 3 times and gone through it, thinking maybe a gasket or a diaphragm something was off. Because once I got the fuel pickup fixed, I was getting gas to the carburetor, but it still wouldn't run. Anyway, so I just decided, I looked around, found a good deal on a carburetor, and ordered it. It came in, now off camera, it came in, and I just hurriedly slapped the thing on, choked it, and the thing started up. The only problem was when it started, it did not full throttle, but it cranked at throttle. So kind of sounded almost like the Yamaha that I've been working on. But so anyway, I thought I had an air leak of some kind. So I pulled the carburetor back off and was looking at that. I was looking at the gasket, and anyway, what I discovered is I got the carburetor here is the throttle cable outlet. Maybe in shipment, or it was like that before it was shipped to me, I'm not sure, but it had been pinched or closed off. So and so I'm just putting the cable on blind, I guess, just feeling my way through it. So I put the cable head through it and just thought, well, okay, the cable fed through the little eyelet there, but it didn't. It actually just was wrapped around it. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but anyway, the bottom line, what it was doing is it was holding the butterflies open. So when I cranked it, that's why it was mid-throttle. Let's just put it that way. I don't know for sure, because that's as far as I've gotten. I took a screwdriver and pried it back away, opened it up, and so I have not put it back in there yet, and that's what I'm about to do. So I'm hoping now, finally, just because it cranked on its own before I pull this back off, that I get this eyelet fixed. But now I'm finally going to have this thing running. But anyway, so I brought you back in. I'm hoping that this will be the last video before I get this thing out on the water. And so that's what I'm about to do. So I'm going to hook the oil lines back up, I'm going to hook the fuel lines, the reserve lines. That's really all I've got left to do. But I've taken this carburetor off so many times, I noticed that when I pulled this carburetor back off, that already one of the lines in my return line had actually split at the connection to the carburetor. So no big deal, I've got extra line, I'm just going to snip it off, but they had to be, just from the number of times it was on and off, just wore it out. So, all right, I'm going to get you off the camera stand. I'll bring you over here. I don't have any way of putting the camera above the ski so you can look down into the hole as I'm working on it, but this is just simple stuff, getting the carburetor back in, seated, and then we're going to fire this thing up, and hopefully, finally, I'm hoping that this thing will run on its own, idle, and then I can just set this aside and move to another one and get it ready for the summer coming up. All right, so let me bring you in a little closer and show you down into the ski, and let's get this carburetor back in. Alright, so first thing, let me reach down in here. I've got a bag. Wasn't too successful. What I tried to do is I put a screws into the oil lines and then put the oil lines into a bag, but that didn't work that well. They kept coming out, and so I do have oil that is in the bottom of the hull, but not that bad. That I can't clean it out pretty well, but so I've got these clipped together. Get these separated here. All right. Move the pulse line out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead, and I have to go underneath the exhaust, as I said earlier, in this line. Well, if you can see this, me holding it up, it's it doesn't give me a lot of play here, so I'm trying to go ahead and run it underneath the exhaust, because once I get the carburetor down in there, it's hard for me to get my fat hands underneath it to run it around or run it through. So some zip ties ready. Let's see. This. All right, so one oil line, the shorter one, it's right here. So it's going to actually go between the crankcase and the carburetor, or really the cylinders here. And so it's the shorter of the two. And the other thing is I have to make sure that I get it run underneath the cables. Remove the screw here, go ahead and get this inserted. Okay. And again, since I don't have a lot of room, I mean a lot of extra oil line, I can't just lay it up here on top of the head and put the zip tie on. So, but we'll get it done, get it back on there. So right now I'm not going to tighten it all the way. I'm just going to put it on there loose. I want to make sure I get this one on because I may have to move this around to get it to fit. And see, I'm already running into the issue of being able to put this other oil line on. So it's just frustrating. There's probably a way that I don't know, an easier way to do it. So I'm trying to figure out if I go ahead and put it on here now, is there, when I flip this carburetor up, am I going to be able to then feed it back underneath the intake? So, well, I won't zip tie it down. Let me put it on and let's try it. Alright, so I've got the zip tie, that oil line on, got both of them on. And let me just go ahead and put the zip tie around it. So I'm just going to assume this is going to work and I'm going to be able to get this, get this on there and feed it through. Alright. Alright. So what I did is across the oil lines, I don't know, you probably can't see it. I don't have a better way if I put that camera. So I'm going to pull this oil line off. My hands are now oily, so I can't get a good grip on it to get it off. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to have to feed it over the line that way. Okay. So now I've got to try and feed this oil line as I'm putting the carb back on. Feed the oil line down below the exhaust. And I think I got it there. Alright. So I've got the carb seated. And now my hands are nice and oily to get these fuel lines back on. So I don't know if there's any good way. First one, how to, if it matters which one I put on first, let me go ahead and, well, nope. I'm not going to zip tie, I'm not going to tighten these oil lines yet. So, alright, let me get my fuel lines on. Let me go ahead and get the bottom fuel line on. Okay. Get that zip tied on. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and tighten that one, since it'll be, probably have a hard time with that after when I put the pump line on. Alright, we got that one on. Where is the... Let's get my return line on. Oh, I forgot. I just now saw that, putting it on there. There's this, taking it on and off so many times. I mentioned before, I have a split right there, so I'm going to come down, cut this off a little bit, about an inch. These things, a huge help in trying to remove fuel lines and put them on. So I'm going to try this again. When I was putting the lines, reaching underneath, yeah, it just goes on there well. Putting lines, reaching down under the hole and putting them onto the tank, on and off when I was trying different things. These were just awesome in getting the lines on and off. Alright, just about got this one. This is zip tied on. Okay, one more line. Pump line, we'll get the carbs seated back in there good. Okay, got that seated there. get my cables hooked up here. Get this seated. It is not it's easier to go around, or at least it has been easier to connect the throttle cable. Let's see. Well, I'll probably unseat it again. Going more from feel. I probably should put these on at first, maybe. I don't know. I go more from feel right now. Okay, I got that one in, and it is seated in there good. So one more here. There we go. All right, looks like I got both cables. Okay. Yeah, let me tighten the oil lines now. And let me make sure I'm just getting it's bright out here, so the shadows darker, so I'm going to get the flashlight here, so I'll make sure that I'm getting these zip ties on good. Alright, get that tight. Okay. All right, I think I got everything on. The carb is seated. Got it seated on the gaskets there. Let's see, I don't want to tighten. I took them off with the drill. I don't want to tighten them with it, so let me go get a wrench. snug. I'm not really cranking down on it. Last thing I need at this point is to strip it out. Alright, now maybe the moment of truth. I think I've got everything. Got the cables. Oh, I've got to get a battery put in. I don't like to leave them out, especially on the skis that stay in the yard. Let me get a battery in this thing. Alright. We're getting close. I'm getting a little nervous. I've been disappointed so many times getting to this point where I'm thinking, here we go. I'm finally going to get this thing running on its own. So let's see. Hopefully, I'm just going to leave the spark plugs that are in it. Those are the old spark plugs. Sitting out in the yard, I didn't want to leave it without spark plugs, but I didn't want to put good ones in it. I'm just going to see what it'll do with it, what it's got in it right now. Okay. Step back here. Put the key in. And I'm not going to put any fuel down the carburetor. I'm going to try it with the choke. Well, I lied. I don't want to burn my starter up. So let me put some fuel down adjust the camera a little bit. I'm going to put some fuel down the carburetor. Just a little splash. Okay, here we go. Alright, so I made a mistake here. I didn't even think about the phone just being tied on the back of the ski when I came back and cranked this thing up. So I almost destroyed my phone. So when this thing fired up, which it did, the vibration and everything just shook the phone right off the back of the ski. Fortunately, it didn't land on the driveway. So I've taken it off the back of the ski and I'm holding it for now. I'm going to put you on a stand. But in the meantime, it did crank up and it seemingly ran good, except it would not idle. So so I got to looking at the idle screw was all the way out. So I'm hoping that's the problem. So I screwed it in a little more, but what I've got here is I have a socket. If you can see there, if I can get that in there. So I've got a socket and then a little extension on it. And so I haven't tried it yet, but I don't see how I'm supposed to adjust that given that kind of angle, the way it goes in there. You know, I'll try to put a ratchet on it, but anyway, that's kind of frustrating as well that there's no way. I guess from this side I could reach in there and adjust the idling screw. So, but anyway, I'm going to try that. I'm going to crank it. What I did turn it in some, So hopefully that will help it to idle. I hope I haven't gone too far with it. So I'm going to put you on the tripod this time instead of the back of the ski, and we're going to crank this thing up and see if we've got it fixed. All right, let's see what we got. Alright, you know, obviously I can't really tell until I get it on the water. And so, let me know what you think about the idling. I played with it kind of up and down. I don't know if you could tell, probably could. That I needed a little higher being out of the water. So we'll see. So my next step is, so there's just the socket I put on it with just a little swivel. Because it's down here at an angle, so it's sitting in there about like that. So it's the only way I could get to it. So I think we're good. One thing I did notice I've got to do is I got an oil leak from the canister here, and I think it's I probably have a split hose. You know, originally I had a lot of stuff wrong. Hose is brittle and old from this thing, I guess, sitting out, and hopefully that's the problem. Because what I did, I noticed there was a lot of oil. I cleaned it up here, and now I noticed I've got another little puddle, and so hopefully it's just a split wire, and hopefully I don't have the reservoir actually cracked. So hopefully it's just a hose. So I got plenty of extra line here. I'm gonna cut that about an inch back and reattach it. Hopefully when I take that off, I'll see a crack or split of some kind that's leaking. Hope it's not the little spout off of the reservoir. So all right, well, that is it. Really not much else to do to it. I've got just a couple of little things that I know I've got to do, and next thing, this will be out on the lake in probably a month or so. So anyway, all right, appreciate you joining me.